It's been roughly 2 months since my last Cheap Supercars video, so I figured it was time for part 2. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm also aiming to redeem my subpar performance, but hey, we all start somewhere. Thanks to Matt for this video idea. As it appears, I've forgotten to mention my favorite 4-banger, the Alfa Romeo 4C, and damn, I'd be remiss not to talk about that beast. With that said, why don't we start this list off with the Alfa Romeo 4C. The Alfa Romeo 4C falls into a category of cars that I refer to as suicidal death traps. Other cars in this category include the Miata, Spectre, Elise, and you get the point. Though many consider the 4C to just be a high-end sports car, I would argue against that, as it fits all 4 requirements of a supercar that I made up just now. Those requirements are that it must look extreme, check. It must drive extreme, definitely check there. It must be exclusive, also check. And finally, it must have great performance, and yeah, it does. So I'd say this car checks out as a supercar. The 4C may have a 4-banger, but underestimating it would be quite the mistake. This car boasts an amazing power to weight ratio, which allows the car to pull a 4.5 second 0 to 60 despite only having 237 horsepower. That is some hell of efficiency. A used 2014 4C will run for around $47,000 in the States or 42,500 pounds in the United Kingdom. You can get yourself a car that has a decent amount of carbon fiber goodies on it, which makes it all the more worth it. Also, I just have to mention this, but I'm not just converting dollars to pounds. That's not at all how I'm getting those numbers. I'm getting those numbers from actually searching through UK auto trader websites. If you're looking for something more refined and slightly more roomy, a used 2010 Lotus Evora S is a great car to consider. For around $37,000 in the States or 28,000 pounds in the United Kingdom, you can get yourself a car that is a very tasteful balance between performance and usability. The supercharged 3.5-liter V6 isn't a total gas guzzler. The car has a reasonable trunk, so if you really wanted, you could daily drive this car. Just don't try to use the back seats. Like, seriously, who the hell designed this? I thought my brother's Camaro had laughable legroom, but this doesn't even have any consideration for the legs. Why even bother keeping the back seats anyway? Just remove them or use them as extra storage space. After all, one of the 10 commandments of being a car enthusiast is weight reduction. Also, make sure not to tell your coworkers and non-car friends that this car has a Toyota Camry engine in it. It'll drastically reduce the cool factor of this car. But hey, at least that means that if Lotus ever closes down, you can still get parts for the engine. Damn, that makes me feel melancholy saying that all of a sudden. You know, if you love Lotus and have been fond of them ever since their multiple appearances in all the video games that you played in your childhood, then I hope you support them with all your heart. And no, mentioning heart doesn't mean I'm trying to sound like a god. Yeah, someone actually commented that on part 1. Apparently, being emotional about cars equals sounding like God. Go figure that leap in logic while I move on with this video. If you're looking to run a 0 to 60 time that breaks through the 4-second barrier, a 2004 Porsche 911 Turbo is a great place to look. I know that the die-hard Porsche fans won't approve of this entry, but think of it this way. The less people that like the 996 generation, the cheaper they'll become and the higher the chance for someone who couldn't give less a fuck about traditional Porsches can buy one for dirt cheap. You can find a 2004 Porsche 911 Turbo for only around $38,000 in the States and for around 36,000 pounds in the United Kingdom. With all-wheel drive and its turbocharged flat 6, this beautiful son of a bitch is capable of achieving a 0 to 60 time of 3.8 seconds. That's no laughing matter. And despite the 996 generation vastly considered to be one of the ugly ducklings of Porsche design, but let's be honest, how many non-car people can really tell the difference between Porsches? Some of my coworkers can't even tell a difference between a Boxster and the legendary Carrera GT. So in the looks department, I think you'll just be fine owning this car. You'd be surprised how fast these cars depreciated. It's only been 3 years and they've lost basically 50% of their value. You can get a 2014 Jaguar F-Type S for around $45,000 in the States or 35,000 pounds in the United Kingdom. Even though you can get the V6 base model for even cheaper, I'd still recommend you save a few extra thousand for the S trim because this car isn't a slouch like the base model. With its supercharged V6, it's thrown down a 4.4 second 0 to 60 time. Your ears will be enjoyed hearing the whine of the supercharger, and the F-Type isn't bad on the eyes either. I don't even like Jaguars personally, aside from the XJ 2020S. However, I must say though that this car is perhaps one of the most beautiful cars that Jaguar has ever made. It definitely screams supercar, or at the very least, very, very fast sports car. Be warned though, as this car isn't exactly the most reliable thing on the planet, so try to find one in the best condition possible. You know what this last entry is going to be? It's an American racing legend that... Just kidding. I'm not doing that bit twice in a row. I'm just pulling on your leg. No, I'm not going to say Corvette, but if you've been one of my recurring viewers or are one of my subscribers, you know exactly how this list is going to end. You've probably been waiting this whole list wondering where I would slip one in. It's a fucking kit car, my friends. Not just any kit car, it's one made by Superlite Cars, a division of RCR, or Race Car Replicas. I've mentioned their SLC in my last video. This car is known as a Superlite GT-R, and it is modeled after the 2005 Ford GT. I know replicas may sound a bit iffy, but let's be honest, look at how ridiculously expensive original second generation Ford GTs can get. How many of those poor bastards do you think are sitting around in garages, not moving, simply being displayed and preserved as some status symbol? It's saddening as hell, especially for those who've dreamed of owning one themselves. With that said, if you really want to own a Ford GT and drive it to the fucking ground and actually treat it like how a car should be treated, this kit is your saving grace. The kit starts around $49,995, but you'll need an engine, drivetrain, paint, and tires of your own choice. Finished builds can be done in around 400 labor hours and for as low as $82,000, but most can even get past the 100K mark. Despite that, it's cheaper than the original, and you can actually drive it around without worrying about miles and depreciation. RCR does recommend a rear-wheel drive setup and a Ford-based V8. A very common option is the 5-liter Coyote, but the choices are endless. If you think this entry is a bit on the pricier side and don't believe you can afford it, then guess what? I believe you can afford it. So believe in the me that believes in you. I hope you enjoyed part 2, and I'm grateful for how popular part 1 has been getting and how much I've grown in these past 2 months as a YouTuber and as a person. Seriously, try to watch my first videos on my channel without falling asleep. It's insane how much I've improved. With that said, I want to keep making amazing content for you guys, so if you want to support me, then watch the ads that play during my videos. That's all I ask. That way, even if you're short on cash or in high school, you can still support me. I ain't about that cash grabbing Patreon life yet. I'd like to believe that I still have a future after my last year in university. If you're not already subscribed, then make sure to subscribe for daily uploads about cars, gaming, and anime. Thanks for watching, and thanks for helping this fledgling channel start to grow a pair of wings. Blade Angel out.